You know, when people talk about betrayal, they often use the word casually. Oh, she betrayed me, or he stabbed me in the back. But until it happens to you, in the most personal way possible, you can never truly understand how deep the wound goes. My story isn't just about betrayal. It's about love, friendship, trust, and what happens when all of those things collide in the worst way imaginable. It begins with me and a woman named Clara. Clara wasn't just a friend. She was my best friend since college. We met during our first year, both nervous about classes, both far away from home, and both eager to find someone to lean on. From that very first week, we clicked. She was funny, sharp, and had this way of making me laugh even on the darkest days. We did everything together. Late-night study sessions, road trips on weekends, even silly little traditions like making pancakes at midnight before finals. Over time, she became the person I trusted the most outside of my family. If I was sad, she knew. If I was happy, she celebrated harder than anyone else. We were inseparable. Fast forward a few years. College ended, and I stepped into adult life. I got my first job, a modest but stable position. And around that same time, I met Daniel. He was charming without being overbearing, intelligent without being arrogant. We met at a friend's birthday dinner, and I remember Clara being there too. In fact, she was the one who nudged me to talk to him, whispering, "He keeps looking at you. Go say hi." So I did. And one conversation turned into many. Before I knew it, Daniel and I were seeing each other regularly. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no relationship is, but there was comfort and stability in it. He made me feel safe, and for someone like me who always carried quiet insecurities, that mattered. Clara was thrilled for me, or at least, that's what I thought. She would tease me about how Daniel and I looked like a couple out of a movie. She was always around us, sometimes too much, but I never minded. To me, it felt natural. Daniel and Clara got along, and in my mind, that was a blessing. I had my best friend and my boyfriend getting along. What could be better? Years passed. Daniel and I got married. Clara stood by my side as my maid of honor. She gave a speech at the wedding, making everyone laugh with stories of our friendship. She cried during the vows, telling me later how happy she was for me. I believed her every word, and for a while, life was good. Marriage had its ups and downs, of course, but overall, Daniel and I were solid. Clara remained part of my life. She would come over for dinners, go with us on short trips, or sometimes just crash at our place after a long night of wine and conversation. To me, this was how life was supposed to be. A partner I loved and a best friend I trusted. But slowly, little things started to change. Things so subtle that at first I brushed them aside. I noticed Clara started dressing differently when she came over. More polished, more deliberate. She laughed a little louder at Daniel's jokes than she used to. Sometimes when I walked into a room, I felt a strange silence, like a conversation had been cut short. I told myself I was imagining it. After all, paranoia isn't a good foundation for friendship or marriage. Then there were the excuses. Clara suddenly became too busy for our usual girls' nights, or she'd cancel plans, with me at the last minute, but then I'd find out she had been free after all. Sometimes Daniel would be the one telling me she wasn't coming, which I thought was odd. But again, I didn't want to be the suspicious wife. Still, the feeling grew. It was like a quiet whisper in the back of my mind, reminding me something was wrong. I ignored it as best as I could, until the night it all came crashing down. One evening, Daniel told me he had to stay late at work. Nothing unusual. He often had long hours. I decided to treat myself to a night in, face mask, movie, maybe some wine. Around 9, I suddenly remembered I'd left something in the car, so I went outside. As I walked back up the street, I froze. There, parked just a little down from our house, was Clara's car. At first I thought maybe she had come by to surprise me, but as I got closer, I saw something through the living room window. My living room window. Daniel and Clara. Together. Too close. Laughing in a way that wasn't just friendship. The way his hand rested on her knee, the way she leaned into him. It was all I needed to see. I didn't go inside that night. I stood frozen, the weight of reality crushing. Me, my husband, my best friend. The two people I trusted most in the world, betraying me under my own roof. It's hard to describe what I felt in that moment. Anger, yes, but mostly it was a kind of numbness, like my body couldn't process the flood of emotions. I walked away quietly, sat in my car and drove. I don't even remember where I went. I just drove until the gas light came on. For days after, I didn't confront them. I kept my silence. I needed time to think. Confrontation would give them power. It would let them twist the story, make excuses, maybe even manipulate me into doubting myself. No, I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I started watching, listening, paying attention in ways I hadn't before, and what I found confirmed every suspicion. The late nights at work. The sudden errands Clara had to run. The way Daniel's phone was suddenly always face down on the table. They thought they were clever. But once my eyes were open, it was impossible not to see the betrayal cut deeper than I can put into words. It wasn't just about a husband straying. It was about losing two relationships at once. The man I had and promised my life to, and the woman I had trusted with everything. I felt like the foundation of my world had crumbled, leaving me standing on broken pieces. But here's the thing about betrayal. Once the pain settles, once the shock fades, something else takes its place. For me, that something was resolve. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things or make a scene. I wasn't going to let them see me broken. No. If Clara thought she could take my husband and still walk around with her head high, if Daniel thought he could betray me and move on as if nothing happened, they were both wrong. They were going to feel what I felt. Maybe not immediately, maybe not tomorrow, but one day soon, they would taste the same pain they had given me. And that's when I started planning. Not rashly, not impulsively, carefully, quietly, patiently. Because revenge, when done right, isn't about the heat of the moment. It's about precision. It's about timing. And above all, it's about making sure the lesson lasts. I knew exactly where to begin. When I say I started planning, I don't mean scribbling wild ideas on a piece of paper. No. This wasn't a movie. This was my life. And I wanted my revenge to feel real, lasting, and personal. I didn't want shouting matches or public confrontations. I wanted them both to experience the same kind of betrayal that I had tasted. The quiet, gut-wrenching discovery that the people you trust most can destroy you without warning. The first step was control, controlling myself, my emotions, and my outward appearance. I kept acting as if I knew nothing. I smiled, I cooked dinner, I made small talk with Daniel. I still sent Clara light-hearted texts. It wasn't easy. Inside, I was boiling. Every time Daniel kissed me goodnight, I wanted to shove him away. Every time Clara pretended to be my friend, I wanted to scream in her face. But I didn't. I played my part, because silence is the sharpest weapon when betrayal is fresh. And in that silence, I started to observe Clara more closely. Her patterns, her weaknesses, her insecurities. You see, Clara wasn't as confident as she pretended to be. She always needed validation. From men, from friends, from the way people looked at her when she entered a room. She was the type who feared being overlooked, who thrived only when she was the center of attention. That, I realized, was the crack in her armor. I also knew Daniel better than anyone. His weaknesses weren't the same as Clara's. His was pride. He wanted to be admired, respected, seen as the good guy. He would never openly admit he was wrong. His entire self-image was built around being the dependable one. That, too, was a weakness I could use. I began small. Nothing noticeable, just little adjustments. I distanced myself physically while pretending to stay emotionally present. I gave Daniel more freedom, more space. Instead of questioning his late nights, I encouraged them. If Clara thought she was stealing moments from me, I wanted her to believe she was succeeding. And the truth is, they both grew bolder because of it. Their little secret affair flourished under the illusion that I was clueless. But behind the scenes, I was building connections of my own. One thing Clara never knew was that I had stayed close with another old friend of ours from college, a woman named Hannah. Unlike Clara, Hannah was loyal to her core. I trusted her. I confided in her, carefully, not with the whole truth at once, but enough for her to understand what I was doing. She became my quiet ally, the one who kept me grounded when my anger threatened to consume me. With Hannah's help, I started orchestrating small moments that placed Clara in vulnerable positions. For example, I would accidentally let Clara meet certain men at gatherings, men I knew had the kind of charm she couldn't resist. And sure enough, her eyes would wander. Her laughter would ring a little too loudly. Even though she had Daniel now, Clara's hunger for attention was bottomless. I also began sharing subtle pieces of information with Daniel, carefully chosen observations about Clara, dropped casually in conversation. Not accusations, not suspicions, just little seeds. Clara's been hanging out with a lot of new people lately, hasn't she? Or, funny how she flirts without realizing it sometimes. Always with a light tone, always as though it didn't matter to me. But to a man like Daniel, who valued pride and loyalty, those words simmered. Weeks passed, then months, and slowly, the cracks began to show between them. Their stolen moments grew tense. Clara would get moody when Daniel questioned her late nights. Daniel became suspicious when Clara didn't answer his texts quickly. It was almost poetic, watching them taste the same unease, the same suspicion, that had poisoned me before. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I wanted the pain to be undeniable. The opportunity came during Clara's birthday. She threw herself a lavish party at a rented hall, inviting all her friends, co-workers, and acquaintances. Of course, Daniel was there. Of course, I was there too, smiling, playing the role of the supportive friend. But behind the scenes, Hannah and I had prepared something. Clara, in her vanity, had been careless with her phone. She often bragged about the attention she received in her private messages. With Hannah's quiet help, I gained access to screenshots of a few conversations, flirtatious exchanges with men Clara had been entertaining, even while sneaking around with Daniel. Nothing illegal, nothing outrageous, but just enough to show her true nature. During the party, when the speeches and toasts were done, I asked if I could share a few words. Clara, of course, beamed. She loved being celebrated, loved when I played the role of the admiring best friend. So I spoke warmly about our friendship, about the years of laughter we had shared. Everyone smiled, Clara included. Then, with a calm voice, I said something simple. Clara has always been someone who needed attention. So much so, she's never been satisfied with just one person giving it to her. There was a ripple in the crowd. Clara's smile faltered. Daniel's face stiffened. And right then, Hannah discreetly handed Daniel her phone, showing him the screenshots. His expression changed in an instant. Shock, then anger, then the dawning realization that the woman he had betrayed me with was just as unfaithful to him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there calmly, letting the silence do its work. Clara stammered, trying to laugh it off, But Daniel walked out of that party without saying a word. And just like that, the illusion they had built crumbled. The fallout was swift. Daniel moved out of our home within a week. He tried at first to reconcile with me, pleading that he had made a mistake, that Clara had manipulated him, that he wanted to fix things. But by then, my heart was no longer his to win. I didn't scream at him, didn't curse him. I simply told him the truth. You broke something that can't be repaired, and now you know what betrayal feels like too. As for Clara, she tried to call me, text me, beg for forgiveness. She even tried to justify herself, claiming she and Daniel had fallen in love, as though that excused anything. But when she realized Daniel was gone too, her messages grew bitter, angry, accusing me of ruining her life. I never responded. Her pain was her own to live with. And here's the thing, revenge isn't always about destroying someone, publicly. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply making people live with the consequences of their own choices. Clara and Daniel got exactly what they had given me: betrayal, loss, and the hollow emptiness of knowing they had been used. Over time, I rebuilt my life. I focused on my career, my family, my passions. I surrounded myself with people like Hannah, those who understood loyalty, who valued honesty. It wasn't easy, but I learned to trust again. And slowly, the pain that once consumed me became just a memory, a scar that reminded me of my strength. Looking back now, I don't regret what I did. I didn't scream. I didn't destroy myself to hurt them. I simply let them face the reflection of their own actions. And in that quiet, calm revenge, I found my peace. And that's my story. If you've ever been betrayed, you know how deep the pain cuts. But you also know how strong it makes you when you rise above it. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud or violent. Sometimes, it's calm, deliberate, and precise. If you enjoyed this story, and if you want to hear more calm but powerful tales of revenge, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who might relate, and subscribe to my channel, My Calm Revenge. There are many more stories to tell, and I'd love for you to be here for each one.